Thank you, Acting Speaker, and great to see you in the chair. And it's always great to follow the member for Ballerine and her fantastic contribution, but also so many good contributions from this side of the House. And of course, I rise to speak on the Environment Legislation Amendment, Circular Economy and Other Matters Bill 2023, which is clearly just another way that the Allan Labor government is creating jobs in Victoria and achieving our climate change goals. And this bill amends the Circular Economy, Waste Reduction and Recycling Act 2021 and makes minor amendments to the Environment Protection Act 2017. And I thank the Minister for Environment, Minister Dimopoulos, and the previous Minister, Minister Stitt, in the other place for the work that they've done, the great work that they've done on this important bill. With 1 million containers in the last 24 hours, it's pretty impressive. And to have any suggestion that it's a failed rollout is crazy, absolutely crazy. But I suppose those opposite have to try and raise any concerns because that's always their agenda, to scare people. And I know people in Melton lined up for this program to start, and they lined up yesterday and they were ready to go, and go they did yesterday in the 2 locations in Melton. So, of course, when I was growing up in the western suburbs, born and bred in Braybrook, pretty low socio-economic area, we did have container deposit schemes back in the 60s and 70s, and it was run by CUB. And if anyone ever remembers long neck beer bottles, probably not too many in the chamber at the moment because they're all too young, but if you remember long neck beer bottles, you could collect them, and CUB would send out their bottler to pick them up. They'd provide the crates, and they would then pay you an amount of money for the collection of those bottles. And of course, in doing so, they reused those bottles. They took them back to the factory and cleaned them and reused them for producing further beer supplies across the state of Victoria. And as I say, they would even leave crates at your home to be able to stack the bottles in. Of course, Acting Speaker, in responding to some of the more ridiculous things that I've heard on this debate, in particular by the opposition, it's just, in one breath they're telling us how environmental their constituents are, and then in the next they just say that they're not willing to travel to the next suburb to drop off the containers and the bottles and the cans at a collection point. So unless it's in their backyard, I don't know if they want one of these collection points on every corner, I don't know if that's what they're after. Of course, you know, it seems a bit crazy to complain that there's not enough collection points, but in the other hand, they're waving the flag that they're environmentalists. And of course, I've got to agree with my good friend, the member for Mordialloc, about the grumpiness of the member for Brighton. And it seems he's quite a bit grumpy in recent times, and that's a bit of a shame. But I know that the member for Mordialloc invited the member for Brighton to come out to the car park where he has a collection point just to see how the system works, and it'd be great to witness that if the member for Brighton took that invitation up. Of course, as of yesterday, the container deposit scheme certainly started putting money in people's pockets, and I think that's fantastic. And in fact, it reduces it reduces the litter across the state by up to a half, and that in itself, regardless of what people get in return, that in itself is an important issue, and that is about reducing the litter that would go into landfill. I think that's probably even the most important thing that comes out of this. And of course, it's estimated 500 million eligible drink containers are disposed of annually across the western suburbs at 10 cents a container, and that amounts to about $50 million worth of cans, bottles and cartons. And that's $50 million that can go into the pockets of constituents across the western suburbs. And of course, if you translate that across the state, then it could mean up to hundreds of millions of dollars that could be paid out to people engaging within this scheme. And that's a win for everyone. And I encourage my constituents in the electorate of Melton to engage with this program and access a part of the $50 million. It's a nice little earner for people if they want to try and pick up some cash. Yeah, sure, it means that you've got to go around and collect cans and bottles and things like that and take them to a collection area, but in some cases it would be worth it. There was reference to the rollout by the opposition, and I just want to remind them that New South Wales was the second state after South Australia to introduce such a scheme with in 2017, and I'm not sure who the Premier at the time was. I know it was a Liberal government at the time. I'm not sure who the New South Wales Premier was at the time, but their initial rollout was just over 200 machines or 200 collection points. They now have around 618, which is pretty close to the total that we want to have. So again, under a New South Wales Liberal government, you can roll them out at 200 initially, which is what we've done, better than that. But it seems to be the sky's going to fall in Victoria because we haven't rolled out our 600 on the first day. It seems a bit crazy that that's the issue that they're sort of concentrated on. Of course, I want to make reference to a contribution by the member for South West Coast, and she was lamenting that her major concern was that we might have to work to change the thinking of consumers and how they interact with the scheme, and ensuring compliance and maximising refunds. And I think that reference was in regard to how people previously would crush the cans and things like that. That's something that we as a governing body need to do all the time. We need to change people's ways of doing things, and we've done that and with things like wearing seatbelts. We've done that with smoking in public places. We've done that with same-sex marriage. We've done that with racial segregation, and we've certainly done it with women's right to vote. So changing people's attitudes and the way that they act is something that governments do all the time, and that's the agenda here. This is about reducing litter going into landfill and compensating people for it. And it's a very positive program. And I know that the youth of our communities will be excited by this, the community groups, the scouts groups, the sports groups, many community agencies will be very excited by this, because this is a new avenue, another avenue where they can try and get access to some funding to run their sports club, run their scouts group, provide for the community groups and assist them in providing whatever services and things that they do for those particular participants. Of course, the member for South West Coast, she did bring up an important point though, which clearly the member for Kew had that talking point as well, and I noticed the member for Kew is at the table, but the price increase of 14 cents per can is going to cover the cost of the CDS participation scheme. Well, it's just not accurate. It is just not accurate. And of course, the member for South West Coast alluded to the fact that she had 200 or 250 stubbies in her wheelie bin, and they would just go into wherever they go. I don't know what happens in her collection, in her electorate, but I will give her some advice. If she took the opportunity to take those 200 or 250 stubbies at the end of the week to a collection point, it could be a nice little earner for her each week. So, or she could donate it to one of her, community groups, schools, or whatever. But it could be a nice little earner for her, or give it to a group that needs it within her electorate. So rather than just stick them in the wheelie bin. So this bill is an important bill, and I know, as I say, there's been many contributions made on this bill, many good contributions made on this bill, and that's because, as I say, it's really important. And of course, yesterday at one of our collection points, I had a constituent that attended the collection point and provided all of the cans and bottles that he collected, and he got a return of $970. And I congratulate that constituent for his efforts in cleaning up Melton and also getting a bit of a return for himself, and I hope he continues to do that. Again, I encourage others in my electorate to do similar, and certainly the community groups. This is a really important bill, and I'm pleased to talk on it, and I hope it gets a speedy passage through Parliament. Thank you very much.